No, I decided to delete that one. We're gonna. Um, I haven't done that in a long time. I know. Um, uh, there's no excuse to ignore the living word and censor the living word and not share the applied physics of the Lord's Prayer globally now. There's absolutely no excuse. Okay. Um, uh, you have the capacity to, you do. You know, what I did by January 22nd, 2013 gave people globally the ability to share what I was doing, uh, with their technology, and then accept the perfection of what I was doing. And you have nothing to be afraid of. You know, anything you think you're afraid of, from the military to covert ops to pandemics to aliens to wormholes and alternate universes and stuff, that's all just a manufactured fear prison that you've invented because of your addiction. Okay. You're going to have to help me do this, recognize what I'm doing, and globally share it radically overnight. And if that doesn't happen radically, real soon, um, uh, I'll just have to keep doing what I'm doing. And it, it's working. What I've been doing is working. I don't have to apologize to anybody. I don't have to say I'm sorry to anybody. You know, I'm the living embodiment of the Lord's Prayer. I've stood up when they took me to Fort Huachuca, outside of Fort Huachuca and Sierra Vista, in Cochise County in 2006. I took on the worst manipulation and selfishness with technology and money that human beings could ever come up with. Okay. You think it's worse now? No, it's not. It's better because of me. Because they tried to destroy me and turn me into mythology and tried to make me feel like I was a overblown egomaniac. And the only reason we have any kind of global stability with people, communicating or behaving or acting in any way, shape, or form that seems humane or somewhat compassionate or intelligent is largely because of myself. Okay? It's not because of people building buildings and inventing jobs and saying, everybody, we need to do this together. So you're not doing anything right at all. If you want things, you want to understand how to think, say, and do things right, you come to this YouTube channel. Okay. So the only people that deserve any kind of recognition into getting this finalized are the people that are still making me available on this YouTube channel. Okay. If you aren't publicly attempting to make me available and trying to help me be available to everyone, that's your issue and not mine. Okay? You don't need any backdoor excuses. You don't need more time to get your ducks in a row and your poop in a scoop. Yeah. You need to do it now. Okay. The polar ice caps restoration can't wait another day. We can't have another summer of forms of global warming and extreme weather activities because you guys have not parked your cars, bars, and wars. Because you guys won't stop building and manipulating with your money and your technology. Okay? If you're attacking people because they're easily manipulated by money with technology, and the reason that is why is because that's what you're doing. Okay? If you were saying irrational, you would be able to understand that and do something about it. But you're not. So you need me to do it. And I'm doing it. And I do it very well. I see these things on TV. Oh, money is the want of your invention to replace the truth of creation is the root of all evil. Okay. The want of your own invention to replace the truth of creation is the root of all evil. Trapping the soul and the mind and saying everything you're doing with your invention instead of honoring the laws of the truth of creation is the root of all evil. Don't go read books written by people that have you donating money to feed and shelter animals. If you want animals to have a better world to live in, you're going to have to be a human being that does not try to replace the truth of creation with your own invention. Yeah, I'm the Messiah. Okay. I'm the guy like John from the book of Revelation. John, the second coming of Jesus Christ, of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, discussed in numerous documents and had the scientific evidence to support it. Should have been supported by Richard Dawkins. But apparently Richard Dawkins and people like him did not want to finish, quote, second fiddle to Parsons because he was a loser. He never finished anything. He quits at everything. The reason why I quit participating in sports and in schools was because they would do anything to win and their economics was genocidal. It wasn't because I wasn't a better teacher than the people that tried to teach me. It wasn't that I was a better coach than the people that tried to coach me. It wasn't that I was a better healthy participator or athlete or didn't have superior athletic prowess to other people. I just chose not to compete in their selfish delusions of prowess. I stepped away. Being eternally the spirit of John from the book of Revelation, who's the eternal spirit of the man before him that it says in all the books, that many of you refer to as God, and you are not God. Okay? And me and John and Jesus never said we were Jehovah. They spend the whole New Testament trying to get Jesus to say he is Jehovah, that he is Caesar, that he is Pharaoh. And he keeps telling him, you say I say that. I'm not saying that. Well, you do know that Pharaoh will have you, Pharaoh will try to kill this whole region to get rid of your ideas. It's like, faith in God is not an idea. Okay? Thinking that money makes you powerful is an idea. For the want of your invention to replace the truth of creation is the root of all evil. Okay? You can't make an economy work for anybody. And if you think you can, you are the source of your own evil. And fighting evil is holy jihad, Batman. Okay, do you understand? So you need to apologize to people whose children are dying from cancer, whose children are being born with birth defects, especially since January 22nd, 2013. Earl had done everything necessary to fulfill your documentation beyond any reasonable doubts to recognize a religious truth, okay, of the commands of the religious truth of Jesus' commands, Jesus' perfect command. I'd overcome all forms of manipulation and temptation that the people that invent to try to replace the truth of creation with their invention could come up with. Ever since then, I've just been putting out fires, cleaning up messes, and waiting for someone somewhere to step up and recognize me so we can do this radically overnight. I certainly hope someone does. I hope some kind of trending celebrity has the courage to do it and give away all that they've worked so hard for their whole life and follow me. You might be pleasantly surprised. When you recognize Earl and what he's done, you might find yourself to be more influential and beautiful and strong and what you would consider famous than you ever thought you were in your life. Yeah, you could go down in history as, the next Red Grange or uh, or Josephine Baker, which they'll forget. Okay, but guys, because of Jesus' sacrifice to give us the perfect faith of the perfect father, Adam, and his wife Eve, how many people globally know who Adam and Eve are and who the spirit of Father Adam through the man named Jesus is? Okay, that's a long way back, to the river valleys of Mount Zion in Africa, a long time ago. Okay, and so the reason why we know that man and that woman and the perfection of the Holy Covenant of the Ark of the Covenant through that man and that woman's love. Okay, do you understand how important this YouTube channel is? How important I am to the world? It's not lost on me. I've known it for quite a while. I know it since I was a little kid, and Jesus used to tell me, when I told him that nuclear warfare was stupid and sick, and I didn't want to happen, and he agreed, and he said, well, don't let it scare you, and Earl, you're going to be the man that helps me stop all this insanity. And of course, being a little kid, I said, it's scary and I'm a little kid. He said, you're not going to be a little kid forever and you're going to do it. And at the time, I kind of let it go, because all the people I ever heard that spoke the same way I did were like George Herbert Walker Bush and Saddam Hussein and L. Ron Hubbard and David Koresh and Jim Jones and Gordon B. Hinckley and Spencer Kimball, and I didn't want to be like any of those people. And I always loved Jesus. We always had excellent conversations, and I was always there for him and told, I'm here if you need me. I told him, that's what I said in Deming, with my family when they asked me, when I was turned 13 that summer. And I said to them, they said, Jesus did this. I already know what Jesus did for me. Okay. And what I told them was, Jesus already did what was necessary for me to get up and love and be like him. I did like Jack Kennedy. I said, ask not what Jesus has done for you, but ask what you can do for Jesus Christ, right? And that's what I said. I was 13. And I sat there and I said, I'm not going to, I already know what Jesus did for me. I'm not going to have him, die and pay out for my disgustingness because I'm selfish. I'm what can I do for Jesus Christ? Because he already told me when I was 8, that I was going to help him stop nuclear warfare. And so by the time I was 13, I had already, because of our prayers, had said, no, I'm not. I already know what Jesus did for me. What can I do for Jesus? Jesus gave us perfect commands to follow. Jesus gave us immaculate faith to depend on and rely on. And so, I don't ask what Jesus has done for me. I'm already aware of that. I ask what I can do for Jesus Christ. How can I live up to the standard that he set for me as a man? And how can I share that standard with everybody so we can live the perfections of his sacrifice and his commands, right? And that's what I said when I was 13 in Deming, New Mexico that summer. And I can't tell you why Ezra Taft Benson and Gordon B. Hinckley and they were all alive then and all part of the inner sanctum, I'm sure, had knew about the inner sanctum. Maybe they weren't. I don't know though, because, Hinckley was, maybe most of the sin falls on Ezra Taft Benson and Spencer J. Kimball and the men that were the older men of that time, and then passed on that sin to Hinckley and Monson and Nelson and the others. I can't tell you. I don't have the. I don't. I'm not part of that inner circle, and they don't talk to me, and I don't want to talk to them. When I play video games or watch things on TV about Brigham Young, you start calling them be the white Uters, but I'm just being facetious to people that do hypocrisy in Brigham Young's name. I've talked to Brigham Young. It's weird because Brigham Young was not the prophecy. I've actually, from what Joe was dealing with, and Joe was so busy and so scared for his life, I've talked more in prayer to Brigham than I had to Joe Smith. And I had some good conversations with Joe, and they were very intense. But a lot of people say they were manipulated by the Mormon Church and their technology. I don't think so. I think it's the same thing. Saladin told me, you think they're pulling your strings, but who's pulling theirs? And like I told people, you think it's a program, but it's based off of the spirit of Michelle or the spirit of Keith Elam or Tupac. So it's not a program. It's me connecting to them. You're just eavesdropping because you're a bastard, right? And the biggest connection I had was the affection for Brigham Young's half-black son that he loved so much that he was named Malachi. And then Malachi Nelson, the kid at UTEP, kind of, he physically resembles Malachi Young. And so when I watched that kid, it brought out an emotion in me, a PTSD, a post-traumatic stress, in me. Because when you have a prayer of a very good person that a lot of people love and protects people, but other people are jealous of him, and the protection cannot be returned and sustained, when the prayers I had there, it's a lot like a man named Little Hawk, who I had a lot of very good prayers with, and Tishna, A lot of the prayers of Tishna are very sad. When I went to North Carolina, and my body and my mind and everything just freaked out, being taken from Mars to Venus, and it was very difficult on me physiologically, and it affected me psychologically. I felt like I was picked up. I was born and raised in Mars, and they moved me to Venus, and I wasn't supposed to be there. I did it out of. It was interesting, but I did what I had to do. When you volunteer to do what needs to be done to perform the Gospels and deliver us from evil, a lot of the things is very manipulated. And like I told Brian Manwaring in Sierra Vista when he came to ask me about, being the one, the prophet, seer, and revelator, as they refer to him. And I said, you don't try to know everything, or it's like people in the surveillance industry, all things you try to know that you shouldn't know, it drives you mad. And I told him, you only want to know what you need to know, and you only want to know it when you need to know it. So they think you're stupid. They think you're an underachiever. They think you're a charismatic cult leader that's an underachiever, and you get all your greatness through losers that pray to you to help them survive because they're not good enough to, and their survival of the fittest bullshit. And so it's very hard, and it's quite sad. You connect to some of the most beautiful people throughout history, and they're betrayed and assassinated by people that are jealous of them, like High Hump, when High Hump and Little Hawk had that conversation when they were going out, and he knew they were going to assassinate his friend. And he told him, they were riding together, and he said, if you touch the thing to your lips, he goes, that means one of them's probably going to, when they see you do it, they're going to shoot you in the back. He goes, yeah, which one do you think it is? He goes, I don't know. Do you know? No. But I'll tell you this, it's a good day to die. And I told the children I would go out and protect them from Wasichu and being like the Wasichu, and I'd rather die than be like the Wasichu. And if you think I'm going to let that little storyteller, if you think I'm going to let George Lucas and Steven Spielberg pretend to be like High Hump to protect the children from ghost stories, if you think I'm going to let Stephen King replaced the courage of the Messiah that goes into Cochise County and stands up to the devil and Satan. And you know, when Mark was there and he was freaking out, and that little lady came, and I broke 5 federal laws in 2 minutes, and Mark was freaking. He's like, I told you, they know who you are, and this is the most surveyed place in the whole planet. They're wherever there was, you know, that the White House is watching everything you're doing right now. And I was like, uh-huh. And I gave her my phone to call a man in Yuma to try to pick her up. I told her where to go to wait for sanctuary. I told her as soon as I got off work that I would walk her to the Episcopal Church to make sure she had sanctuary from people that could legally give it to her. I tried other people that were supposed to be pastors that could, you know, claim that they're working with these other pastors to do it, and they were too scared to do it and wouldn't do it. And Mark was shitting his pants out there in the parking lot. He's like, Earl. And I'm telling Mark, you know, Barack Obama's watching this. Andrew Womack's watching this. You know, the Pope at the time was watching this. You know, the president of the Mormon Church is watching this parking lot. When a woman comes to you and says, there are laws in place by a republic and an empire of money that have turned me into sexual property. You know, if you try to help me, you can be incarcerated for 50 years. And you sit there and say, that's the chance I'm willing to take. If I'm wrong in what I do, that's the chance I'll have to take. All right? So I stood up and I did it. You know, and I told everybody I did it, and I posted it on social media for the last years. I've posted it and posted it and posted it. Okay. And not one president had recognized my courage and my kindness. Not one general or colonel or joint chiefs of staff, or, you know, when that black woman was in charge of White Sands, did she never step up and said Earl did the right thing and Barack should recognize? Okay, I've given you all so many opportunities to step up and be a man like David and all the people that you're named after in the Bible, and won't stand up and be like them with me. You know, I'm the one they call Lord, the second coming of Raphael. You know, the person from the pale rider from the north that is the lay preacher that teaches the poor people the real gospels from the aristocracy. You know, Ralph Earl Parsons Jr. You know, Mary's boy from the Surah of Mary and the Holy Quran. You know, that guy. You know, that guy. All right. So, yeah, and there is an Archangel Raphael. He's my father, and it says in the story that it says healing comes through his family. And it does. You know, he teaches his son to obey Jesus no matter what, to ask Jesus to help him with everything, and that Jesus will guide him through, and Jesus will correct everything that Raphael can't teach Earl how to do himself. That's what my dad told me when I was a kid. He said, Earl, you know, I'll try my best to raise you and be the best. I'll try to raise you as a man the best I can, and I'm going to fall short. And anytime I fall short, you need to ask Jesus for help, and Jesus will help you through, and Jesus will correct any of my shortcomings. And that's what my dad told me when I was a kid. Okay. Now, other guys from the Mormon Church, even the Rockefellers, might have been listening and said the same thing to their kids. Uh-huh. But it didn't happen. But it happened with Raphael's boy they call Lord. You know, Mary's boy? Yeah, it did happen with him. So there might be a little bit of something to them, their stories, and they might be more than just stories. Okay, in order for a story to be prophecy and for people to believe in it, it has to be based off of the truth of our reality and faith in the truth of our creation. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to go. Let's load this one instead. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll keep working on it. You know, it'd be nice if you could show up tomorrow and start trending these tomorrow. That's my wish and my prayer for you. If you can't, I'm going to keep working on it. When it does change, on that day, and I'm feeling it. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, especially with what's happening with connectivity globally of quantum computing. Okay, to gain better control over human access to manipulation, to manipulate and murder each other with drones and robotics technologies and security technologies, and places that are still archaically being used, that are volatile and very dangerous to human existence. And the economics are still causing global warming. So this is a very pivotal time in human history, and a very pivotal, important. All time in human history is important. We're all given life by the glory of grace. Don't over exaggerate your self importance and pull your head out of your fucking ego. Okay. There's a reason why I am who I am, and there's a reason why you're not who I am. Right? I cuss you out, you bet your ass I'm going to keep cussing you out till you show up for the Lord's Prayer and recognize what I did, what I'm doing, and what I still have to do. Okay, because even after you join me, okay, that doesn't wash away what I did and what I'm doing. Okay. I still have to be that focal point. I still have to be that light. We live on a planet, in a galaxy, in a universe, okay, with other planets that have the possibility of having symbiotic life like us. Okay. It behooves us as a planet to have a temple for the soul of a person like me, okay, to maintain balance and harmony for the existence of life through the truth of creation on our planet, to affect all life across the cosmos. Okay. So what I did, what I'm doing, and what I still have to do. And if you can't humbly accept that and receive this blessing from my love and reciprocate it and share it with me, that's your decision. But I implore you, recognize what I'm doing here through these people giving me access to the public. And, if they can't do it, I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe there's, I can't tell you. I'm not a linguistics rapist and a murderer and all that stuff. That's not my issue. Okay. So, I constantly hold out hope that tomorrow, the texts that are definitely trapped in this, I understand, it's just frustrating to me, but I can use technology to protect people with technology. I just can't protect them from themselves. Do you guys understand? Okay. You have a decision, do it. If you think that recognizing this YouTube channel and sharing it so it can trend globally is going to get you physically killed, okay, then maybe that's exactly where the devil and Satan need you. Then you have to ask yourself, like that t-shirt I saw on the thing, Trump supporters, billionaires, or idiots, look at your bank account and see which one is you. Okay. You believe money's real, participate in popularity contests over money that mass murders people. Okay. Billionaires and idiots, which one are you? Okay. Do you understand? Okay. Money is an invention that tries to replace the truth of creation with the ego. What's the root of all evil? Everything you're doing on TV, asking people for money and telling them it's their time. Okay, there's a reason why I did what I did, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and why I still have to do what I have to do. Okay, somebody has to be the focal point of protection of human life on this planet. Okay. And it should be pretty obvious through my family line that I chose to be the one that would help step up and do that with others like me throughout time. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not a god. I know I'm an eternal faithful father. And I know I've talked to other eternal faithful fathers too. Okay? And other people from other tribes and other families that are very similar to me. Okay? You know, it's a blessing to be able to talk to Little Hawk, to Hai Hom, to Confucius, to Sun Yat-sen, to, you know, to others. Confucius to me is more a lot like Rumi. He's less of a talker and more of a listener. He has me talk to the people that talk to the line of me, you know. So most of my communication through Confucius has been through Sun Yat-sen. And I understand that, you know, when someone's listening and he knows he doesn't have to talk because he knows anything he says will be perverted by the people that are betraying Sun Yat-sen, so he's not going to say anything at all. He's not going to relay any information about what's happening with the man, you know, on the other side of the world, or the people that are going to betray and abuse and murder Sun Yat-sen will use it to their manipulation. Confucius knows what he's doing. He's way more intelligent than the people that murder and manipulate over money with technology. Trust me. Okay, guys, I love you. All right, we'll talk later. Peace out.